think about your defence. This is kind of a very vague sort of title, if you will. What I'm talking about really is 50% of the game, which is defending. So that is quite a big thing to do. So I'm not going to be able to cover the entirety of defence in kind of half an hour or whatever. But I'm going to be trying to hone in on what it is that makes a good defender. So my kind of strongest part of the game, I would consider, is defence. And I don't really know why that is. I suppose it's because I like being 2v1 or something, I don't really know. But my best part of the game is undoubtedly defence. I get the most of the best scores that I get from defending, which is counterintuitive to how you instinctively want to play. Whenever you play cards, especially as a kid, you always want to play the hand. If there's someone who plays the hand, that wants to be you. That's the way you feel like you win. So being a declarer feels like the most natural way of winning, because you're playing the hand, you're in control of what's happening. But defence is 50% of the game, and in fact, the card play side, when you're dummy, you don't play. When you're a declarer, a defender, and another defender, you play. So 2 in 3 times you're actually playing the hand, you're defending. So it's more than half when you're actually involved in something. Obviously, the time where you're a dummy, you just watch your partner kind of go 3 off and never mind. So being a defender is arguably the most important part of the game, because the card play part is the part where you can win, in my opinion. Obviously, you can win in the bidding as well. And being a defender is a big, huge chunk of it. So whilst I've been playing Bridge the last few months, kind of aware this defensive thing was coming up, I was trying to think, what am I actually doing to make it so that I'm being a good defender? Because it's a different skill being able to defend as it is being able to know what you're doing in the defence. I know that sounds confusing, but when I'm defending, I do things instinctively. I lead this, or I switch to that, or I think about what declarer's got instinctively. And it's quite difficult to realise what you are actually doing. So, the main thing I've noticed whilst I've been defending in the last few months is I am obsessed with declarer's hand. All I think about is declarer's hand and not my own hand. So I've realised that a very, very important thing to defence is thinking from declarer's perspective. So that's probably one of the most important things you can do in defence. So important, in fact, I'm going to write it down. So what I mean by that is, if I were the declarer in this particular contract, how would I be playing this hand? That makes an assumption that you are a semi-decent declarer. What would I be doing? Would I be drawing the trumps? Would I be taking for finesse in clubs? What suit would I be going after? If I'm in no trumps, what suit are they likely to be playing? What's their plan? The problem you've got with that is you can't see declarer's hand, so you can't know, especially not at trick 1, 2 and 3, where you've got a bit of a guess as to what they've got. But they start to reveal things as they play the hand. So as they choose a particular suit to play on, and as they select cards from the dummy and from their hand, you get a bigger and bigger piece of the picture, if you like. And slowly but surely, their plan should reveal itself to you. Knowing the declarer's plan means you know how to break it, or you know how you can try and break it. So declarer is trying to do something that is in their interest, you would imagine. So therefore, you need to try and do something that is not in their interest. So the opposite of what they're trying to do. If they're not drawing the trumps, why are they not drawing the trumps? Perhaps you should draw the trumps. If they are drawing the trumps, why are they drawing the trumps? You need to think from their perspective. When you think from the declarer's perspective, it means you can then understand what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to draw the trumps because they want to play on their diamonds. In which case, you need to do something about that if you can. Now, you can't always control things in defence because you don't have the lead very often. In fact, you have the lead very rarely. Between you, some of the time, but you as an individual, not very often. That's because they've got more points than you. So, choosing what suit is led is not very frequent as a defender. Obviously, the opening lead, but you're a bit blind on the opening lead. But you don't often choose what to lead. So, your impact is quite limited because you don't often get to select where to kind of steer the hand. Declarer is in more control of that. But you should always be thinking about what is declarer up to? What are they trying to do? Why are they playing that suit? Why are they leading this suit? Why are they avoiding this suit? I've realised when I've been defending, I am obsessed with declarer's point of view. To the extent I'm not thinking about me as a defender, I'm thinking about me as a declarer sat in their seat. And then thinking about how can I stop them from doing what other me would do. And that's when I kind of turn onto my defence. So a good kind of example of this is when you can see the dummy, you can see whether declarer's finesses or declarer's suits are going to behave for them. You've got a unique perspective as a declarer, as a defender, because you can see how successful declarer's most likely line is going to be. For example, I won't put the whole hand up. imagine they're in 3 no trumps, and obviously the club suit is the suit they're going to play on, I should say, and you are West. You can see that Declarer's club suit is not behaving nicely for them. You can see that you're going to make the king and the jack as long as you don't play clubs yourself. So Declarer's plan of playing a club to the 10 and a club to the queen, which is probably the correct odds, finessing, is not going to work. So you know from Declarer's perspective, well, if I were Declarer, I'd be playing on the club suit and I'd be upset at the way the club suit is behaving. So you know that they're not going to have a good time in this hand. They are going to not enjoy the way the clubs are positioned. However, if we were to turn the clubs here, and instead we were East with this club holding, you can now think as East, you jammy so-and-so. I've got all the clubs sat underneath your clubs. You're going to finesse the living daylights out of me and I have nothing I can do about it. And that's the truth. So when Declarer plays clubs, you know it's going to go badly for you. And therefore good for the Declarer. So in those worlds, the first world bad for Declarer, the second world good for Declarer, you get a feeling for how likely the Declarer's success is going to be. From your information on the dummy, the way the suits are breaking, the way finesses are sat, and so on and so forth. So when you think that Declarer is going to have a very good time in the hand, like this one, you need to try and be as active as possible, as aggressive and as optimistic in the defence as possible. Because you know that they're going to be swimming in club tricks very shortly. So you need to take risks, because they're going to make those club tricks, assuming the Declarer plays properly. They might play a club to the ace and let you have 2 club tricks. But they're not on your side, so they probably shouldn't be doing that. So when you're thinking about how good Declarer's chances are, if they have a good chance of making lots of tricks, you need to be active. You need to be very proactive in your defence. Cash tricks aggressively, lead suits taking risks. Try to do something that develops tricks for your side. Take risks by leading away from your kings and queens so that you build tricks. Take risks by leading shortages sometimes, depending on whether you're in trumps or not. If, however, you're in that world, where you know you're quite smug about the fact Declarer is going to have a bad time, you're probably empathising with North, yeah, I have these suit breaks as well, you might be thinking. So now you know that Declarer is going to have a bad time. Not only that, if they are to play on clubs, which looks like their most likely line, they're going to lose the lead to you twice. When you are in a position where you know they are not going to enjoy themselves, they need help in the contract. Because they need help, because they're not going to have a good time. So suddenly, because the suit is laying out in a certain way, you need to be thinking of a more passive defence. Don't give them any help. So taking risks in the defence sometimes helps Declarer, sometimes it works, hence it's a risk. Taking no risks in the defence doesn't build tricks for your side, but it doesn't help Declarer either. So it's all about how you rate Declarer's chances. Do you think Declarer is in a contract that's too low, too high, round about where they should be, and so on and so forth? Now, you've only got some parts of the information. You can't know with absolute certainty how well Declarer is going to do. They might have bid 1 no trump as an opening bid, showing 12 to 14 points, but actually they've got 18 because they've forgotten how to bid. So you might think they're in a dodgy contract, but actually they're in an easy contract because they've lied to you. So you can't know for absolute certainty, but you can have a good feeling for it. Knowing is based on their bidding. Dummy comes down and they've shown 12 points, but they've only got 4, and you're going, oh, well, they're in the right mess here, in which case you should be passive. Or Dummy says, oh, I've only got 6 to 9 points, and Dummy comes down with 13 points, and you go, oh, they're going to make this easily, I need to be aggressive, I need to be active. There's kind of 2 styles to the defence. There's trying to build tricks for your side, accepting there is some risk to that. And the other side is being passive, going, all right, you have the lead, do your work. You have the lead, I'm not giving you anything. You have the lead, I'm not giving you anything. And then the Declarer won't be given any gifts, but you won't be being very active. So there's kind of 2 different styles, if you like. It all depends on how successful you think Declarer will be, given the certain hand. There are times where you make an opening lead trying to be passive, you see the dummy, and you go, whoa. There's loads of goodies on there. I wasn't expecting that. I need to take a more active approach because I can see my tricks vanishing. Now I need to start taking risks. And the other way it can turn around. You start with an active defence, you see dummies really rubbish, and you take more of a backseat. You try and let Declarer do what they want. So I'll just try and build a hand where I might decide to be passive or active depending on what's going on. And I'll keep this club suit because it's a good example of when to be passive and active, just based on the finesses working. We'll have a look at another one in a minute though. So imagine the bidding was 1 no trump from north, 2 no trumps from south, 11 or 12 points, 3 no trumps from north. Okay? Remember, you're always thinking, how successful is declarer likely to be? So you've got to listen to the bidding. The bidding here suggests that north has got a 1 no trump opener, 12 to 14 points, and they were willing to bid 3 no trumps over 2 no trumps, which means they should have 14 or a good 13. Should have. Again, obviously take into factor who you're playing against, whether they're bold or not. If it's me, I might only have 12 kind of thing, aren't but you need to be thinking about what they're representing in the bidding. So north should have kind of 13-ish points, 13, 14, something like that. Your partner leads a small spade. That's by far the most likely thing they're going to lead. And you can now get a feel for what's going on in the hand. You look at the dummy and you think, aha, my clubs are sat very well. Declarer is not going to enjoy this contract. In fact, I'm almost certain they're going off now. There's 11 points here, 13 or 14 here. The clubs are simply not behaving the way they need them, the way the declarer needs them to behave. He's in a mess, he or she. They're in a mess, because the clubs are not behaving for them. Do you see that? That relevance, that's the only suit they can possibly play on, I would imagine. They might have 5 diamonds with north and have an 8-card diamond fit. They might even have a 7-card fit in the majors, but it's more likely that they're going to go after the clubs, just by sheer length. The clubs are not behaving. So from declarer's perspective, I'd be thinking, well, what I would be doing is playing on that club suit. That's what I would be doing. They're likely to be able to win this spade lead, because we can't contribute anything big. So what's going to happen most likely is declarer wins a spade lead, and they take a club finesse, which will fail. We need to now think about their chances of the whole hand. You should be thinking that declarer is not likely to succeed based on the way the clubs are behaving. So what I think we want to be is passive. We don't want to take any risks. When we gain the lead in clubs, we don't want to take risks. We want to try to not help declarer because they're in a mess. So the most passive thing you would be able to do when you gain the lead, let's say it's something like this. By the way, just as a side note, it's always good to count points from declarer, especially when they limit their points. 12 to 14 is a finite number. So when they show you points, count them. It's a very good habit because you know where certain cards are. Again, thinking from declarer's perspective all the time. So they lead a low club, partner plays a club, they play the 10, you win the jack. So we're on lead, and we think the declarer is in a mess because of the way the clubs are behaving. So now you want to do something that is not risky, risk averse, because you don't want to help them. They're in a contract that should be failing as long as you don't give tricks away. What that means is you need to lead something passive. A club would be disastrous because you've given them the club suit. A heart or a diamond would be risky because you're leading away from an honour. So the most passive thing you can do is lead a spade back. It happens to be good that your partner's suit is spades, but whether my partner had led a heart, a diamond or a club here, I feel like I will be leading spades back to try and be as passive as I possibly can, because declarer is not in a good contract. Not because they bid wrong, but because of the way the cards are positioned. So I would lead a spade back. They play the ace, let's say. Your partner plays another spade. Play another spade from the dummy. And they play another club finesse. Partner discards something. Discards is always helpful as well to give you a clue. Let's say they discard a spade, which gives us absolutely no clue as to whether they want a heart or a diamond. Thank you, partner. Queen, king. Ha, finesses don't work for you, nor do they me. So now what are you going to do? What's the most passive thing you can do in your hand now? Hearts and diamonds are still risky. So there's only one card that isn't a heart or a diamond.
Club.
A club. You could argue, well, surely if I play a club, they're just going to go club, 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 D club. And the answer is yes, they are going to do that. But they have established the clubs, so they have a right, if you will, to those club tricks. The main point is if you lead a heart or a diamond, you might be giving them extra tricks, and that might be the 9th trick. You can't really stop them from getting those club tricks. They've got a club in their hand, because you've 1 here, 3 here, 6 here is 12, which leaves you with 1 here. So if you give the lead away, which you have to, North will then be able to play a club and go down all the clubs anyway. You can't really avoid that from happening. So what you mustn't do is give a trick away in the red suit. I reckon instinctively if I gave you this hand and kind of made it all work like this magically, most of you wouldn't want to lead a club at this stage because those clubs are winners. The thing you've got to be thinking is declarer has those club tricks. Those club tricks are theirs. You can't avoid that. They have a club in hand. The only way you could actually take enough tricks is if somehow your partner has ace, jack to 4 hearts. Even then you're not going to take enough. Ace, jack to 4 hearts just about does it. But you're playing for something quite specific there. Because you think declarer is not going to make that many tricks because of the way the clubs were positioned, you don't want to help them. So therefore, you want to lead something passive. And it's all because of the way the hand is developed. So I would lead a club bag knowing that declarer is going to take lots of club tricks. Okay? It's just the way you've got to be thinking about things. From declarer's perspective, they might be desperate for you to lead a heart or a diamond to help them build the diamonds or heart tricks. For example, let me kind of give you a suit layout that might be true. Of course they're going to have, I don't know. Sorry, a hand layout rather than a suit layout. Maybe that. Don't know. Just kind of come up with it on the spot. Don't know why they did 3M when they've only got 12 points. But anyway, you can see here with this is fairly realistic, that kind of layout. You can see if you lead a heart, they run it round to the queen, and then they can finesse you for the king, making an extra heart trick. If you lead a diamond, you're playing the diamonds for them, so they'll make the king and queen individually. Whereas if you just don't touch hearts or diamonds, they have to play them themselves. And by doing so, they will have to relinquish a trick to you. Rather than going through the whole intricate play of the red suit, you just sort of have to take my word for it if you don't see it. But essentially, leading a heart takes a finesse for them, and leading a diamond leads away from your ace. So that's bad as well, is what I'm trying to say. So by giving them this club trick, you're not giving anything away. They already have those clubs in hand. You cannot avoid it. So by giving them the club and giving them the lead back, you're not helping them. And the whole reason I'm doing that is to avoid costing tricks. Okay? I should point out, this is a match-pointed defensive style, because we all mainly play match points. Your idea is to not give over tricks away. If you remember from match point week, the difference between 10 tricks and 11 tricks is colossal, because you've got the best score. The same thing is true from a defensive perspective. If everyone's making 10 tricks in 3 no trumps and you hold them to 9, you have a top. So over tricks are a big thing. So if you are unsure, it's best to be safe and i.e. passive. So in this instance, you can see that declarer is going to be helped. You can't see that, because you can only see it because I put the hand up there, but you can sense that declarer is going to be helped by leading a red card, therefore that you should be passive and leave the black card back to the clubs. Declarer is going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9, depending on how they play the hearts and how the 10 of hearts falls or where it is. So their contract is like that, which is kind of how we felt, given that the clubs are in a bad place for them. If you lead a heart or a diamond for them, they're going to make 9, maybe 10. You see the difference? And it's all because you've not been passive at both moments. You're passive at the first instance because you led a spade back, that's fine. You're passive at the second moment to stop them making a red trick. It would be ideal if we had another spade. I agree with you, that would be amazing, because we could lead a spade to our partner and they'd go, woohoo, spades! And that's instinctively what you would do. But we're in a position where that's not possible, so we've got to do the next best thing, which is not give a trick away. And the whole defence of that is steered from the fact that you've thought about declarer's plan, playing on clubs, and you've thought about how successful that's going to be. Not. So therefore you want to be passive. You with me? So if I turn these hands round, I'll just replenish the dummy without circles on it. If I make these hands the other way around, pretending we don't know what declarer's got again, now you want to be active, because our clubs will be underneath the dummy. Let me show you. So, same bidding, but I've just swapped east-west hands. It's surprising, by the way, what a difference to the number of tricks it makes if you swap 2 hands. There are times where I've seen players, play, oh, I'll just swap hands with you, we'll just play the hand, but I want to play it, so we'll just swap. It makes a big difference to what happens in the hand, especially when there's hands lines going on. So now we can see, from our perspective, that 1 no trumps, 2 no trumps, 3 no trumps. We lead a small diamond because that's 4th down of our longest and strongest. Yes, you could lead a small heart. I don't mind that, but I've just chose the best one. Low, 10, useless partners. Queen, low club, trying to be smooth. Yeah? You can now see, when their finesse works, First of all, declarer is jumping for joy. Yay, clubs are right. Aren't I lucky? This is my one time a year, people seem to believe, where finesses work. You can now see that when you gain the lead, you need to be as active as possible. Now, first of all, a torrent of clubs is going to come at you. And I'm going to touch on that in a minute when they play a big long suit, what you should keep. But for now, you can see that Declarer has done something good for them. Your clubs are bad. That is bad news that your 4 points in clubs are essentially useless. Because what Declarer's plan is most likely to do is cross back to their hand and finesse you again in clubs. And your clubs are going to be worth nothing. So that is bad news. Now, our influence on this hand is less so. The reason being, we are not going to gain the lead in clubs. Before, we gained the lead twice in clubs, so we had something to say or something to do. Here, we're not even going to gain the lead until the diamond is played, which is probably never from Declarer's perspective. So, I would be thinking instinctively, first of all, curse my bad luck, my clubs are in the wrong place. But I would be thinking, I need to try and be as active as I possibly can. I need to take risks because the tricks are coming out of their ears, because the club suit is behaving so nicely for them. So if and when I gain the lead, I need to take some kind of risk. Now here, it's probably not going to make that much of a difference because a torrent of clubs is coming at you. So you're going to have to discard down to a very small hand pretty quickly. So you're not going to have that much of a nice time. You can also see, just out of instinct, out of interest rather, that instinctively I feel like that the spade finesse is going to be working for Declarer. It's unlikely Declarer has ace, king, queen, jack of spades. But highly, highly unlikely that they've got all the spade honours, which means our partner's spade honours are sat underneath the Declarer. This is something I'm kind of guessing as to what's happening in the spade suit, but still that is good news for Declarer, isn't it? If our partner's got ace, queen of spades and they've got king, jack, that's good for Declarer because their points are sat after them. The Declarer's being jammy here. Everything's sat nicely for them is what I'm trying to say. We know the clubs are sat nicely. I suspect the spades are sat nicely. The only thing that's sat well for us, really, is the king of hearts if they try and heart finesse. That's the only thing that's really good for us. What I'm trying to say, really, is Declarer's going to have a nice time. So we need to try and be active, because if you're passive and keep giving them the lead back, they're just going to keep having a nice time, because everything's working. So you need to take risks. A risky lead would be low away from your king of hearts. That would be risky, wouldn't it? So if and when we gain the lead, which will be sort of a while away, you should try and take a risk with the heart, in my opinion, because you need to build tricks, because Declarer is having too nice a time. You need to take some risks. You will be devastated if you found out your partner had the ace of hearts and you were passive the whole time, and then Declarer just ran home with all the tricks, wondering why no one ever played on hearts. That can happen. So essentially, Declarer is having a good time in this suit, in this hand rather, so therefore you need to take some more risks. However, this leads me nicely onto my other point. Let's say Declarer leads a low spade to the queen. That finesse works for them, aren't they so lucky? Club, jack, queen, club, ace of clubs, spade discard, king of clubs. So, all I've done is I've crossed the hand, this is again from Declarer's perspective, crossed the hand, taken the club finesse, which worked obviously, played the ace of clubs, which has fallen the entire club suit, so Declarer is now about to play 3 clubs. Something else I want to look at in the defence is when the Declarer is running a suit, whether that suit is trumps or not, it can often be a very awkward position when you're being forced to discard suits you don't want to discard, especially when you've got goodies sort of spotted about here, there and everywhere. The way to deal with a situation where it's known as being squeezed, because you're squeezed out of how many cards you want to hold. You want to hold about 6 or 7 and they're only letting you hold 4 or 5. That's a very uncomfortable position to be in. Because what you tend to find is that you can't do everything you want to do. I want to keep my queen in too little, so they can't ace-king it, but I also want to keep my king in a little, and I want to keep my ace in this suit, and I can't do all that, so what should I give up on? The main point here, when you're being squeezed, is to look at your partner. Your partner is your teammate, so whatever they are discarding, you need to be watching like a hawk. You are not on your own. When you're in a squeezed position, you often feel like you are on your own because you feel, I need to keep this, I need to keep this, and I need to keep this. The problem with those sentences was the word I. I need to keep this, I need to keep that, I need to keep the other. That is not how the game of bridge works. You are a team. So if your partner is discarding spades like they're going out of fashion, you need to keep spades. But you can rely on them to be keeping something else. So you need to work together as a team. Whenever you're being squeezed and they run a long suit, you need to be thinking, well, if my partner is not discarding hearts, it's likely they are protecting something in hearts. So therefore, I can let go of my hearts, or something like that. You are a team, so you need to be working as so. What that means is, you can discard something that you wouldn't otherwise necessarily discard. For example, if your partner is throwing spade, 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 I would be sensing that they're keeping something in hearts. So therefore, I'm willing to discard my heart suit away, if I need to. In this instance, I don't want to bear my king of hearts, but I would be willing to if my partner is representing some kind of heart holding. Okay? So you should be willing to listen to your partner's discards, and between you, keep all 3 suits, if possible, depending on what's happened in the hand previous, all 3 suits covered. What you mustn't try and do, assuming it's not possible, is try and keep everything protected in your own hand. I see it all too often. A defender tries to keep everything, and in doing so, keeps nothing. You discard one of each, one of each, one of each, and you have not protected anything in your own hand. You've just kind of tried, and then everything collapses. Because if your partner's doing the same thing, that means all of the suits are now coming down for declarer. Whereas if your partner kept all their spades and you kept all your hearts, that means the suits are not now breaking for declarer. Do you see the difference? So when you're being squeezed, when there's suits being run at you, your partner's cards are incredibly important. I'm assuming, of course, that they're discarding as well. Because if they're not discarding, you're in a bit of a guess. But if they're, in this example, the fact that partner's discarded a spade means that I don't think they're particularly interested in keeping spades. Either they've got shed loads of spades, or they're not particularly interested in spades. Which worries me somewhat, because that means declarer's got good spades. But nevertheless, suddenly, when they play club, 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 if partner discards heart, 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 I'd be thinking, oh, I better keep on to my king of hearts here, because my partner doesn't seem to care less about hearts. Do you see? Mm-hmm. Finding something to discard simply through sheer hand space is quite a difficult position to be in, but the best thing you can do is communicate with your partner simply by looking. I mean, it'd be good if you could talk to them, but, I'll keep these, you keep them, sorted. But you need to look at what they're keeping, and if you sense they're keeping something, you can discard that suit, and if you sense they're discarding something, you need to keep that suit. Just between you, it's a job. You can almost always keep everything protected between you. There is something known as a legitimate squeeze where you actually physically can't keep everything because it's all in your hand. Your partner's got 13 small cards and you've got everything. In that world, do your best. But that means declarer is playing well if they're playing you for a squeeze. It's quite an advanced thing to be doing. So in this hand, given that our partner's discarded heart, 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 I'd be thinking about going spade, maybe heart, diamond. Possibly trying to keep the ace-jack of diamonds, but I would be willing, depending on how good declarer's hearts were, to go spade, diamond, diamond, and give up on my diamond suit, simply to keep the suit my partner isn't keeping. I'd be more keen on it if I had some kind of intermediates in here where I think I can threaten declarer's heart suit because of my sheer length, essentially. So because my partner's discarded hearts like they're going out of fashion, I would try my best to keep hearts, just as kind of a general rule. Declarer is likely to be discarding as well because there are no more clubs in the deck, so you should be thinking about what declarer is doing as well. Because if declarer is discarding diamond, 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 let's say, you know that they're not interested in diamonds, so you don't have to keep diamonds. They're more interested in hearts and spades, so between you need to keep hearts and spades. It's just logic, really, but you need to be doing it as a team. All too often I see a suit being led and someone looking at their hand and going, well, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that. Well, I can't throw anything away then. But you need to be looking at what they're doing because they may well and can almost always help you to keep something. Okay? Now in this particular hand, let's say that's our hand, I would discard down to this. Let's say they've gone diamond, diamond, diamond. How many cards is that? 4, 8, 6, 7, 8, that's good. And now, because we've discarded all the diamonds, we've managed to keep our hearts protected to some degree. Now, this hand has not gone anywhere near as nicely for us defensively. The reason for that is the declarer got jammy. Everything's in the right place for them, isn't it? So they're having a nice time, really. But now when they take some kind of heart finesse, you've got the heart length to stop them from running hearts, should that be their plan. What you're taught to do against no trumps, you're taught to lead your longest and strongest suit. The main reason for that is if you lead length, it's likely you'll build length tricks. That's the idea, defending no trumps. So, with a good hand, again, good being defensively good, you should lead your long suit. The reason for that is you're likely to be getting in more often than your partner. Almost certainly we're getting in more often than our partner here. And we are likely to build our suit, our tricks are where the defence should be heading. If, however, I remove 9 of our points, now we are sad. But the defence rates to have almost always, or very close to, the same amount of points between the two hands, because they bid very similarly. So the points are now not with us, they're with our partner, is what I'm trying to say. They've not vanished and gone here, because if they'd gone here, North-South probably should be slamming somewhere. Let's say, they might have 28, 29, but our partner rates to have the best defensive hand. So now what you want to be doing is trying to lead their suit. The problem you might have is that the bidding might be that. You can't lead past, that's not a suit, so you have to guess. Now I realised I did this a lot against no trumps when my hand was rubbish, and that is I didn't lead my longest suit. Leading a spade here is what you would instinctively do. The reason for that is you're hoping to get your spades going. Genuinely, honestly, what chance do you think you've got of setting your spades up as length winners? It's got to be in the single digits of percents, hasn't it? It's got to be that kind of low. So leading a spade, whilst that is naturally what you might do, actually is not really going to trouble declarer. Unless your partner's got magnificent spades like ace king to 4, ace queen jack to 4, ace jack to 4, ace jack 10 to 4. Something where their spades are very, very good and they can help you a lot. I can't see that spades are actually going to build our defence, because we need such a good holding from our partner. So really what we should be doing is trying to lead our partner's length suit. Our partner's length suit is not likely to be spades, because we have length there. Nor is it likely to be diamonds. So you're guessing between clubs and hearts, is what I'm trying to say. Now, if I gave you that hand, gave you that bidding, and didn't say anything about the defence, I suspect most of you would have led a spade. And I cannot say that a spade lead is wrong, because it's what the textbook says. But what you're thinking about is the whole hand. There are 40 points somewhere. Your partner must have something. If your partner's got nothing, they've grossly underbid, put the hand away, you've won. If your partner has something, you need to try and build their suit. It helps a lot if they bid, obviously. But if they haven't had the chance to bid, such as this, you need to try and guess as to what suit they've got. It is a guess. You sometimes will get it right, sometimes you will get it wrong. My instinct here is to lead a heart. My clubs are shorter, so it's more likely that my partner has length in clubs, but it's also more likely the declarer has length in clubs. Whereas I think there's a genuine chance of finding a heart lead. I once actually had, I think it was exactly that hand, and I led a heart against exactly this bidding, and found my partner with, it was either Jack 10, Ace Queen 10, I can't quite remember. The point here really is the Jack of Hearts was on the dummy, so with our heart lead at trick 1, because I was, if you like, off the wall, I led a heart lead. Yes, I've got lucky, don't get me wrong, I didn't know that they had this hand, but because I've led a heart trying to find my partner's length, I've managed to establish their heart suit whilst they've still got their entry. Because my partner is the one who rated to have the points in the defence, I looked to find their suit. I was hoping that they had hearts. It might have been that North-South had hearts, in which case I've not done anything good. Nor have I done anything bad, though. So what I was really trying to do was guess between hearts and clubs, because I didn't think spades were likely to succeed. Here, if I led a spade, yes, my partner will win the ace, and they would leave me one back, because that's what good partners do. But then that's it, isn't it? Because declarer has now got all the spades, yes, they're going to knock out our partner's club, but your partner never gets their hearts going, because the ace of hearts is just too good for the declarer. But by leading a heart, the jack was on the dummy, so they played the 10 at trick 1, they ducked, they played the king of hearts, forcing the ace out, they got in with the ace of spades and went heart, 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 and took them off. Yes, I was fortunate on this particular hand. But the point is, you're thinking about the whole hand. If I haven't got the defensive points, my partner rates to. So against no trumps especially, consider leading short suits. I didn't lead a club, because for a club to be right, you need your partner to have an immense amount of clubs for that to be right. Probably 6, maybe 5 if they're really good. But leading a heart, you only need your partner to have 4 or 5 good ones, and suddenly the declarer hasn't got enough hearts between the two hands. Do you see the difference?
With the fact that he didn't play Stamens encourage you to play the hearts too?
Yes, good point. The fact that North-South haven't looked for a major fit is sort of pushed me towards leading a heart as well, because why didn't they look for a heart fit? Because there isn't one there. Why isn't there a heart fit there? Because my partner's got hearts. So yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I suppose it could be 5 hearts there and 2 hearts there. And if that's the case, you've not made a good lead, but I've taken some risks there. Again, along the same vein of what I was saying right at the very start, my hand is poor, very poor. So the likelihood is they're going to make this contract, so I need to take risks. What is risky? Not leading my longest suit. That's risky, isn't it? Because everyone else in the room is likely to be leading a small spade because it's what you do against no trumps. But I realised defending 3 no trumps, about 5 or 6 times out of 20, I wasn't leading my longest suit because my hand was rubbish. So just something I wanted to point out, you can always consider doing that because it's actually logically a fairly sound idea, trying to find their suit. You won't always succeed. You will sometimes, your partner will lead it back when they've got 2 and you've got 3. And they go, why did you lead one of them? I was just trying to find your suit. And they won't be interested at that stage because you've done something wrong. But if you lead it and they've got this hand, they go, oh, good lead, partner. So, you've got to take the good with the bad. Okay?